And we are live. Well, I mean, sort of, kind
Sort
of
of.
live. It has taken a lot to get to this point, but I am so excited that we are now here recording the very first episode of the Conscious Cruiser. So thank you so much, Alisa and Chet, for embarking on this podcast journey with me. I've been enjoying listening to podcasts, and now I am enjoying creating podcasts. And I couldn't think of two better creators to come together and share some cruising knowledge with the cruising community. So thank you very much, guys.
No, thanks for having us, Scott. I'm excited about being here. There's a lot of knowledge I believe the three of us can share out there about cruising, and we're ready to do it.
That's right. I mean, Alisa is so excited. I think she froze.
Yeah, I think she froze.
Oh, and you want to know what, Chet? That just goes. I know you are an amazing content creator like myself. There is so much that goes into whether it's a podcast or whether it's a live cast or whether it's a vlogcast or even a standalone video. There's so much that goes on.
This is
in the
not going
background
well.
to make it go, to make it come to fruition. It's
Yeah, there's a lot goes on behind the scenes that people don't see, and but it's a lot of work that's actually kind of fun to do, and it's worth doing, I believe.
Yes, it is worth doing. And honestly, I never would have imagined that my YouTube journey would have gone this long into a year and a half. I mean, I only started this out of the curiosity for some of my friends and some of my other family members who are continuously asking me more and more about cruising. And I said, well, hey, there's this platform called YouTube. I'm just going to upload some videos and you guys go and watch them. And all of a sudden, Chet, I had these strangers out of nowhere, strangers literally out of nowhere that were watching the videos, commenting. And then I found this whole cruise community here, or travel community, as I would say, on YouTube. And oh my God, it's just been such an amazing journey. I've met people like yourself in person. I've met Alisa in person. And man, now I can call you guys like in real life YouTube real friends, and it's great.
Absolutely. I've had the same experience, Scott. We started cruising in 2004. So we've watched the cruising world change over the last 2 decades, of how things have gone. And we like to share that experience with people who want to know what's going on now. How is it different from back then? And what do we need to know if we want to cruise now? And there's a lot of questions out there, and hopefully we'll be able to provide some of those answers for them.
That's right. And I really like this whole know before you go approach because, like you said, cruising has changed throughout the years. And know before you grow approach. I mean, while the things about the know before you go might have changed, the concept behind know before you go cruising is really what makes the conscious cruiser a successful cruiser, right? And that's what we want to talk about. We want to talk about having successful vacations, successful cruises, right? So people can go on and share stories just like we have and be infectious to their friends and family and also make them want to cruise. So that's, kind of how the know before you go came about.
Yeah, cruising is definitely more fun when you know before you go. There's nothing worse than getting home and saying, man, I wish I had known that.
Yes.
Yes. You want to know before you go. We're going to help them know before they go, Scott.
Yes, because honestly, Chet, and this is just being transparent, and I'm always transparent as you are. I've made a lot of mistakes, right? And I'm not telling you not to make mistakes because obviously the way human learns is they make mistakes and hopefully you learn from them. However, right, I and yourself and Alisa, we're trying to help those cruisers that are first coming into the cruising community, right? And it doesn't have to be their first cruise ever, but maybe their fifth cruise or even their 10th cruise, and they learn something and they actually do take our advice and they veer themselves away from the mistake we actually made. And they come back and say, hey, listen, on the Conscious Cruiser, you were talking about X, Y, and Z. We went to Sea Day brunch instead, and we had an amazing experience, right? That's fulfilling for us. And that's kind of, right, the know before you go. And that's kind of what we want to kind of put out there, our mistakes, so you guys don't make them. And if you do, I mean, tell us what's different about what happened to you.
Yeah, we're always willing to learn from other people's mistakes as well. I've had people tell me stuff over the years, and I've been like, whoa, I'm glad you told me that story. So now I didn't even know that. That's an important thing to know.
Ooh, it's spinning.
There it goes.
Oh, there it goes. It's actually going to pick up right where it left off, apparently. I don't know. But welcome in to the Conscious Cruiser podcast here. We have had some technical difficulties, but that is the world of content creating. And now here we are. Alisa, thank you for joining us. Chet and I were actually just talking about our YouTube journeys and talking about content creating and all of the bells and whistles that come along with it.
Yeah, it's an interesting ride, right? We learn something new every single day.
We do. And I was sharing, I said with Chet, I started this YouTube journey not even knowing where it was going to go. I started uploading just for family and friends. Kind of, they were asking me about cruising. They were asking me how they go about booking a cruise, what a cruise is like. And I wanted to stop sending them Instagram and text messages of just pictures of me enjoying a cruise. So I uploaded on this thing called YouTube. And now a year and a half here I am with both of you doing a podcast about cruising and knowing before you go. And I really think that that's a unique approach. And I think it's what Chet pointed out. Cruising has kind of changed through the decades because he started cruising back in, when did you say your first cruise was, Chet?
2004.
2004. I started cruising in the 80s and the 90s when my parents could carry me.
Yeah.
So cruising has changed over the years. But one thing that hasn't changed is the know before you go approach. And that's what we're really going to focus on.
Cool. Yeah, my journey was similar, and I started also because I wanted to answer some of those questions for folks curious about me going on these cruises. How do you do that? And so I started the YouTube channel, and I started cruising in the 80s too. My parents took me, but they didn't have to carry me, so I was a little bit older than you. But we had a good time and have been cruising ever since.
That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit first about why we decided to come together to do this podcast and form this podcast. You know, there's a lot of ways to consume information out there, cruising information. I mean, there's YouTube, there's TikTok, there's X, there's Instagram. There's so many different platforms, and there's so many different ways to ingest this information, right? Now, in the cruising world, there can be somewhat of an entertainment cruising world, right? I, on YouTube, host a lot of entertainment lives as Thirsty Thursday Trivia and Match Game, but that really doesn't speak too much to the educational side. And between all of us three, we have over 60 cruises together combined. And I said, I think this is a great opportunity for all three of us to come together without a live chat. And don't get me wrong, we love live chats. We all do live shows, all three of us. But to come together for 30 minutes, really take on this know before you go approach and share with all of the new cruisers and some of those seasoned cruisers that may need a little refreshing, that know before you go, and really give them the tips that we have made mistakes before. Like Chet and I were saying, we've made many, many mistakes before, and we're trying to prevent others from making those same mistakes if we can.
Yeah, it's all about knowledge. And there's things that I wish I had known when I started cruising. And I find in subsequent years, there's still stuff that I'm learning.
Yes.
Things are changing. Stuff that I watch other content creators like you, Alisa, and Scott, so I can find out these things. When you go on a cruise, you come back with information to tell us, hey, here's something you might need to know. And I want to learn from that and share not only my own knowledge, but other knowledge that I'll pick up from other people as well.
That's right. That's right. I'll even share a little story too, and I'll be even a little bit more transparent. And Alisa will probably laugh at this. Alisa and I actually both went to Alaska this year on different sailings, different ships, different everything. And I actually went before Alisa, and she was asking me some packing tips and things like that for Alaska because I had went last year. Last year I went at the end of the season, and it was a little bit warmer, so I actually didn't bring a hat. And if any of my personal friends out there know, they know that I don't wear a hat. I don't wear a hat when I'm playing baseball. I don't wear a hat unless I absolutely need to. I just don't like the way that I look in hats. So I went up this year earlier in the season, and it was cold. It was really, really cold, and I didn't have a hat. So I thought of Alisa on her live saying, you want to know what? The one thing you don't forget in Alaska is to bring a hat, no matter what, right? It's not about style. It's about actually being warm in Alaska. And I marched my little sad butt right into the store. I bought my $10 Skagway hat. I sent it to Alisa. I sent a selfie of myself, and I said, Alisa, guess what? You're right. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, I didn't bring a hat. And here I am. I bought a 2 for $10 hat. And yeah, guess what? Now I have a nice Alaska hat. And she, of course, laughed at me. But yeah, it's just those things that, you know, going to different places and cruising in different locations at different times, you learn these things. And not like I wanted to forget a hat, but, you know, hey, I forgot a hat. And that's a big mistake as far as Alaska goes. I mean, that's just one example of the story, but a funny example nonetheless.
Yeah, we went to Alaska last year as well. And one of the things I noticed on our previous cruise about 3 years earlier in going to Alaska was that the excursions fill up fast.
Yes.
And what I mean by fast, I mean, if you haven't booked them before you get on the ship, you're probably not going to be able to. So when we booked this cruise for last year, as soon as the excursion became available that I knew we wanted to go, a bucket list excursion, that's riding the helicopter up to the glacier and riding the dog sled across that glacier. I booked it the day it became available.
Smart.
And out of the 20 slots it showed available, there was already 5 or 6 of them gone when I booked. And the next day I went and checked, and there was only like 1 or 2. And I checked again by the week's end, and they were all sold out. So that's how fast Alaska excursions can sell out. So that's one of the tips that we also learn from, because if I hadn't learned that the previous year, I probably would have booked this Alaska cruise, got all the way up there, and not have been able to do my bucket list dream excursion.
There you go.
So
there you go. And honestly, Chet, you're one of those individuals like myself that you really love helping others, you know, so that's why it was an easy ask for me to ask you to come on this podcast, because I think a big why behind doing this podcast is being able to help others, new cruisers and seasoned cruisers both. But some of those things that, you know, I don't even think of. You know, I'm continuously learning from you. I'm continuously learning from Bill. I'm continuously learning from a Destination Fun and on all these content creators, right? That have experiences just like myself. We're not talking about how many cruises they've had, right? But different approaches to their style of cruising. Like, wow, I never thought to bring sandwich bags on a cruise to save a burrito for later, or for X, Y, and Z, or this. And now I'm bringing sandwich bags. I mean, God knows what they think I'm doing with the sandwich bags, but I'm only doing Blue Iguana Cantina, I promise. And it's for 12 o'clock at night when there's nothing else around. There's another tip for you, too.
Oh, we carry the plastic baggies, too, Scott. We make sure we can put my wallet in there, a passport or whatever, when you go off the ship, because you don't know if it's going to rain, you're going to get caught in it, or maybe you're on a little tender ride or a boat ride around the island, and that water splashes up on you. So we put those kind of paper items in a Ziploc baggie, just like you're saying. It sounds like a easy little tip, but we had to learn it first once too.
Yeah. Chet, I didn't even think about putting your wallet and your other things in. Because I have one of those little pouch thingamajiggers that's waterproof, but it's actually not really that good because it leaks. But to put a sandwich bag around and then see, I just learned something from Chet right now. Look at that.
Well, I carry my wallet, and I use this shirt right here on shore excursions, or this
Okay.
shirt or one like it. It's a Bimini Bay, so it's got the pockets on the front that Velcro down, and I do that just in case there's a pickpocketer or something around, or you bend over, wallets can fall out of your pocket. I keep my wallet right here, baby, right, and passports if I'm carrying it in these pockets with the Ziploc baggies on them, closed down. It's going to be very difficult for them to get that out of this pocket without me noticing, and it's impossible for them to fall out. Just another tip that I think people need to know is there's people out there that want to get your stuff. So keep it in a safe place, and I keep it right on me, right up front.
I love it. I love it. All right. So before we spill the beans too much, Chet,
yes.
I'm gonna move on to our second topic here.
Yes.
And we haven't given our number one yet, but I'm gonna ask you, since we've started this whole podcast and the whole know before you go, what is your number one know before you go cruising tip that you would give to any cruiser that is going on a new journey and a new embarkation?
Well, I've had a tough time deciding that because there's two must-haves. So I'm just going to pick one, and you probably got the other one anyway. Number one is get the travel insurance, y'all. Get it. You don't need it until you need it. But I was scrolling through comments today on another channel. Many people who had to use that insurance. Somebody got injured. Somebody got sick. And they had this insurance to fly loved ones back home if they needed it, pay for medical attention, pay for hotel stays, pay for trip cancellations, things that happen, and to get them back home from a foreign country. This is very important stuff, and not everybody thinks they need it until they need it. However, I want to add to that, this travel insurance does not pay up front. So make sure you have a credit card, that will cover a large amount, or at least have access to something that will get you home so they can reimburse you. Yes. It can be very expensive for some of these things, and be prepared. Hopefully you'll never have to need it. Hopefully that money you're going to spend on insurance will end up being money you could have spent somewhere else. But I say be prepared and get that travel insurance, y'all.
Yes, the know before you go approach. Honestly, yeah. Well, you never need it until you need it. And I'll share another quick story with you, Chet. When I was living in New York 15 years ago or so, I was going on a cruise out of New York. It was actually one of my first cruises out of New York. I'm sorry. No, it was out of Florida, and I was flying out of New York. Excuse me. And the night before, we actually got 30 inches of snow. My 22-year-old self said, I don't need travel insurance. I don't need it. Blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? I was out not only the cruise, I was out also my flight. I was out my drink package. I was out everything. And my best friend was supposed to go with me. And unfortunately, I had to pay him back too, because I was the one who talked him out of the travel insurance, talked us both out of the travel insurance because I booked it for both of us. So we had no travel insurance. We lost it. I mean, he had taken off months in advance. I mean, he was looking up to this. I mean, it was his first cruise ever, and he never got to go on it. I obviously made it up to him years later, but that was probably one of the first times that I said, I'm never, ever, ever going to do this again. I was 22, 23 years old. And man, my heart sunk in my stomach. And I was just like, wow, I really just ruined my best friend's PTO for the entire year. Now he can't take another PTO for the entire year. So, wow. Yeah.
And that's brutal, isn't it? Yeah. That's a tough lesson to learn. And, we traveled for years and never even thought about it either because we were young. I say young, we were 40 in our 40s. But once we got a little older and we saw incidents happening around us, we were like, whoa. And the first incident really caught our attention was a young guy who was running up walls and doing backflips. He'd walk up to a palm tree and run up the palm tree and do a backflip. Well, my wife called it. She sat there and said, hey, that kid's going to break his leg or something or his arm. And I'll tell you, we got off. I don't remember if it was Grand Turk. It was one of those islands that has a big concrete wall right there when you get off the ship. And he ran over that thing, and we're looking right at him when it happens. He runs up, boom, oh, and they have to call people to get him on a stretcher and get him out, take him to a hospital. And we was like, oh my gosh, it happened just like we saw it happening.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Terrible.
my God. Sheesh. Well, hello, Alisa. Welcome
Hey,
back
Hey there.
at a different location.
Come on, guys.
All right. So I will hit you with our question now. Since we have started this know before you go approach and this podcast, and we have such vast knowledge to share with everybody, what is your number one know before you go cruising tip for new cruisers and seasoned cruisers? Something that you always follow and live by.
Oh, and I hope I had some technical difficulty here, so I hope this didn't already come up. But something that I talk about often because I have experienced it firsthand is not to scare anybody off, because I totally love cruising and always go and have a great time. But if you are somebody who is generally prone to motion sickness, I say make sure you have something with you when you board your cruise ship to make sure that you are going to be able to get on and have a good time and not be feeling sick, not be feeling the motion of the ocean in a bad way. You want to make sure that you can just get on and have a great time. So I'm a big fan of the prescribed patch from my doctor. I use that all the time, but there are other things that you can get over the counter, just Dramamine or Bonine or the sea bands for acupressure, the ginger gum, the ginger chews, any of that. Just have something with you to ward off the seasickness, just in case
I love that.
it
I love
happens
that.
to
And
you.
I'm one that never gets seasick, and I still bring them because guess what? If you bring them and you don't need them and you meet a friend or somebody in your cabin needs one and you're like, hey, I got Dramamine, you look like a hero. Like, they're like,
You were the
"Ah!"
hero.
Like, just put this patch on, man. Like, I
Yeah.
got you. I got you.
Yeah, we made a whole video on our channel just to address that, to let people know what options there are out there. Everything from the patch, like
Yeah.
Alisa's talking about, I use it myself. Dramamine, Bonine, and all the other ones. Drinking ginger ale on the ship can help. Eating green apples. So we thought it was important enough to make a whole video on it. But we need to get the word out there because that's something that people forget about. Because
They do.
how often are they out on that water?
That's right. That's right. That's a great tip. And Chet, right before you came back on, Lisa, Chet shared that you should always get travel insurance because you never know what is going to happen. You don't want anything to happen, but you want to definitely be
Absolutely.
preventative in case something like an airlift or God forbid anything happens that you need to pay for. That's a lot of money. So I am going to take
100%.
a little bit different of an approach, and I'm going to go with knowing when your online check-in is. And this is going to be for all different lines.
Mhm.
Particularly, I know mostly about Carnival because I sell a lot on Carnival, but I've been hearing in the cruising communities, a lot of the cruising communities that I'm in, a lot of people getting confused with when they check in. And then they're also resulting in getting a 2 o'clock check-in, or they're missing their check-in and not knowing. And so I think, right, if you are going to check in for a cruise, right, check to make sure 2.5 weeks out when your check-in date is, right? Make yourself familiar with the platform or the app or the website that you're using to check in on and get yourself ready. Now, you don't have to be a crazy nut like me, and you don't have to wait till 12 o'clock at night like Christmas and sit there and wait for your check-in time. You could. I mean, it's fun, but you don't have to. But at least you make yourself familiarized with, hey, okay, when I wake up on the 16th, it's check-in day. You go in and the 10 o'clock spot might be gone, but you still get the 10:30, right? Instead of getting the 2 o'clock or being mad that, you show up and they're like, did you pick a check-in time? And you're like, what's a check-in time? What do you mean? So just make yourself a little bit more aware of when you're supposed to check in, because these things, they're getting actually more and more strict now due
Mhm.
to different weather related things, but they're also getting more and more strict of holding you to when your time is. And I'm not talking about your diamond and your platinum guys, because you already know your benefits. I don't have to sit here and tell you you can walk on the ship anytime. I'm talking about your newer cruisers or those that don't have those special benefits where they're able to get early embarkation or early debarkation. I'm just talking about your regular cruisers here. So those, make sure you know when you're able to check in and do so, because you can reserve your spot. And hey, if you get on the ship at 10 o'clock and somebody else has to wait till 2, sounds like I'm 2 drinks ahead of you, Joe. I mean, hey, I'm just saying.
I got to add to that, Scott. We usually get an early check-in, but when we were getting off the MSC seashore from Port Canaveral, we had to drive down to Miami to get on the Norwegian breakaway the same day. So we went ahead and picked like a 1:30 check-in, near the end. And I got to tell you something. We walked right on that ship.
Yep.
There was no line. So
Beautiful.
if you don't like lines, if you don't want to stand around a whole bunch of people, or you don't like the idea of people butting in line, because guess what? That happens on cruise ships.
Yeah, it does.
Well, pick that 1:30 slot or a later slot. And when you get there, chances are you're just going to walk right on that ship and nobody around you.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there for people who don't like that crowd.
That's true. And especially too, Chet, if you're staying in a really good port, like let's say you're staying in New Orleans or you're staying in San Francisco, where there's a lot to do, you feel like you have a little bit more time at the port to, let's go say go see Ghirardelli Square, or, go out to Chinatown, and you actually have more time before you actually have to get on the ship, rather than, hey, I got to wake up at 7 and be to the port by 9:30 to check in by 10, which is all good. And I've done it too. But sometimes when you're at a really good port, I like to enjoy the port. I'm an explorer. So, I like that. I like that tip, Chet. I really do.
Yep.
Just don't be a pier runner.
No pier runner here. That's your number one tip.
They will not wait for you. Not on boarding day and not on foreign port day. So don't cut it too close. But I understand what you're saying about enjoying the port.
I mean, unless you want to be like viral on the internet, but then just make sure they see your face when you're like, you're being like, no.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it up.
Get a big pirate flag and run down the pier with it.
Yes.
Yes, our number one tip: don't be pier runners, guys. There you go. The know before you go conscious cruiser. Don't be pier runners.
You'll need that travel insurance for sure then.
For sure.
All right, so let's go on to our last topic. This has kind of been a hot topic for travelers and cruisers of all different let's just say preparities. Okay, and I've heard so many different things about this one item, and we are going, whoops, if I don't knock down my desk, we are going to talk today about packing cubes. Okay, and I want to hear my co-host's thoughts on packing cubes. Okay, I will tell you my thoughts. Obviously, I have a packing cube and I didn't just buy it for this podcast. But Alisa, what are your thoughts on packing cubes, and do you use them? Do you use multiple, or are you not a packing cuber?
Yeah, no, I do use packing cubes. I have a set. I think there's 4 in the set. Sorry, they're not close enough for me to grab. And they are the kind of compression cube. So you put your things in there, and then you do the extra zip so it squeezes the air out. I definitely think it helps keep you organized. I think it helps save space in the suitcase. My recent cruise, my first cruise to Alaska, I tried something different, which was the vacuum sealed, not vacuum sealed. That's not the right. The vacuum bags, because I wanted to try and save even more space. I'm going to blame user error on that. I think it saves space. But with any of the packing cubes, if you save space, you have to resist the temptation to fill that space with something else, because it's going to add weight to the suitcase, and then you have a whole other set of problems. But for saving space and being organized, I really do like the packing cubes.
So you'll live by your compression cap packing cubes.
Yes, I'm pretty happy with them.
Okay. Good.
Well, Robin from Sea Lake Journeys does my packing, and she tells me that she tried the packing cubes a few times, but found that her own Girl Scout methods were superior to the packing cubes.
Ooh.
So she does her Girl Scout packing.
Are you allowed to share those tips with us?
Well, she I think she might do it on a video. She's done a couple of packing things, but anyway, she can pack what would take me 3 suitcases into one, and somehow I'll pick it up and I'll go, that's right at the limit, and I'll weigh it on her thing, and it's 49.5 pounds, So however she does it, I don't know, some kind of geometry, algebraic Girl Scout thing that she does, but I leave it to her, and she has tried the cubes, and she prefers her method.
I love it. So you'll have to go over to Sea Lake Journeys and see Robin drop that packing video for that extra tip. The girl, what'd you call it, Chet? The Girl Scout packing method?
Yeah, she was a Girl Scout troop leader too, and she passed all that on. And let me just add, she can also start a fire with 2 ice cubes in the snow.
Wow.
She got skills.
Well,
Robin has skills.
Now I know why you married her, Chet.
Hey, I got a lot of reasons why I married her. Not sure why she married me.
I love it. I love it.
Funny.
So the packing cubes, right? So the first time I've ever used a packing cube, and it wasn't this one. I actually got so mad at it, and the zipper broke, and they were actually really crappy. So I threw them out. And then I had a friend that kind of came down on me. It was like, you go on all these cruises and you don't use packing cubes. I'm like, listen, I had a fight with a packing cube and it won, and I threw it out.
The packing cube won.
What packing cubes were you using? I mean, apparently they were like, really bad packing cubes. He sent me a link. They were only like $12. Again, I got like 4 of them, but 3 of them are not my size packing cubes. I mean, maybe they'll fit my boxers, but I mean, other than that, they're really tiny. So this one here is the one that I live by. And can you guys guess how many shirts and a pair of jeans that I can fit in this thing? Can you guess?
10.
23 shirts and 2 pair of jeans. Yes, I counted.
Wow. See.
Yep. So now I live by that, and it is filled up. Well, almost filled up every time I go on a cruise, depending on the length of the cruise. And
That's awesome.
It saves a lot of
one.
space, though. Yes, I found the one, and it saves a lot of space too. Bringing back, you just explained going to Alaska, and Alaska is one of those places that I always say, I'm not going to buy souvenirs, but I always come home with like a truckload of souvenirs, even though I say I'm not.
I can see why.
And packing cubes help, I guess help fund the habit, or at least make space for the habit for me to put souvenirs in my suitcase and not have to lug this whole thing all the way back or buy another suitcase, which I've also done too on a Caribbean cruise. I've been like, where am I going to put this 7-foot wood flute? Oh, I guess I got to buy another 7-foot wood flute, guys. I'm like, wait, I want to see that, Scott.
That's funny.
All right. So that is on our packing cubes. And pretty much, I know we went over a little bit here, but this is pretty much our first episode of the Conscious Cruiser here. We are going to be airing this episode. We're going to be airing every Monday, but what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a rotation. So Alisa will be kicking us off. You will see this on Alisa's page. On Monday, I have my whole Boycott Monday shirt on. I won't tell you what day it is right now, but Boycott Monday, when you see this, it will be on Alisa's page. Next week, it will be on Chet's page. And the following week after that, it will be on my page. There will be promotions and all of those other things to show you guys where they are. And we're going to try to get in the rotation of this, have different topics. And then when you guys see this on the replay or you guys see this live, all 3 of us will be in the chat and engaging with you. Let us know some of the hottest topics that you want to know before you go. Or if you are going on a cruise and you really want to know a topic, let us tackle it for you and let us be the first ones to, give you that no before you go approach, and let us help you navigate through this cruising world and learn from our mistakes. So, guys, I don't have anything else, but thank you guys for being here and starting and embarking on this with me. I am so happy.
Hey, this is an exciting time in cruising. We're excited to be part of this podcast. It's going to be part of the cruising world. It's just a great time to be a cruiser.
It really is. It really is. And, I was sharing with Chet too, Alisa, earlier, that there is not, well, I'll share it with everybody here. There's not, if you look, Chet, there's not really a heavy, hard cruising podcast niche, right? There is the Cruisers podcast out there, who's actually started by Derek from Island Time, and I actually listened to that. But besides that, I think Trevor Shelby has another podcast. But besides that, there's not too many other cruising podcasts that are really in the space. So I said, hey, let's take this opportunity. Let me get two really good cruisers that know what they're talking about, that are easy to talk to, that I love to come together with every week, every Monday. Let's say every Monday, and talk about cruising. So, Chet, thank you so much, man. I appreciate it, and thank you for agreeing to do this every Monday. I look forward to it.
Hey, no two better people to do this kind of thing with than Scott and Alisa. I'm so excited to work with you guys.
Likewise. And we don't have we don't have a stop button on this. So I guess Chet and I are just going to leave the studio, and then you will see this on Elisa's page. So don't forget, this week it's on Elisa's page. We will be in the chat, and then next week you will catch it right here on Chet's page. We will tease the topics. You will see some posts from us too as well, and you will see us all around the YouTube streets. No matter what platform you are listening to this on, excuse me. So this is the episode number 1 of the Conscious Cruisers podcast, the know before you go approach, know before you go cruising approach. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful Monday. Bye, guys.
Yeah.